Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, delighted to be having a second chat with author Dr. Richard A. Olson. Richard, welcome.
The pleasure is equally mine. Yeah, Rick, Richard, Dr. Batman, the kids call me. I'm a chiropractor, so the kids call me Dr. Batman too. So you just got to have a lot of fun in many different ways. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. I know that we're talking about a particular action hero of yours. The last time we were talking, I think we were talking comics and pulps and some of your inspirations. But on this episode, we are talking about Border Agent Scott Lund. Is this correct?
Yes, Scott Lund, the border agent, correct.
Yeah. So curious about this continuing story and how it's come to be. I know you're uh, just releasing volume two.
Yes, volume two. The first one was called The Border Agent Strikes, kind of an origin growth of the hero. The second one is called South of the Border. And another equally exciting episode that takes place mostly in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico.
Yeah, yeah. What was it like getting to continue this character's story?
Well, it was actually very, very exciting. The backstory is, excuse me, is the first Voyager Strikes. The story actually came to me in a dream one night, literally, including the hero's name. I'm like, wow. Saturday night, so we were going to church Sunday, and I said, "You're driving, honey." And I took a pad of paper and started writing down everything I could remember about the dream, which is a pretty exciting adventure where he gets to rescue the President of the United States at a super church or mega church against an Asian army. So there's a growth of a character, a hero, and a leader. So following that one, I wanted to have a second situation in Mexico where he actually does have to rescue the president again. Um, the fun part of the story is it starts out in 1945. I'll try not to do the plot spoilers. It's a Nazi submarine leaving Germany in 1945. It makes its way to Yucatan Peninsula, goes up a flooded river, and they have a mysterious guest or prize or treasure. And then, poof, 90 years later, my story starts. So, what was happening for 90 years? And
Hmm.
to try to make it short, my author and editor said, write in 100 words what your 400-page book is about. And I'm like, that was a challenge in itself. But the president is on his restored yacht and he's kidnapped. So once again, Scotland goes to rescue the president, but this time he has a band of fellow adventurers, other border patrol agents. So it's really kind of a riot to write the different characters, the interaction of the characters with Scott Lund.
Yeah, that now in creating this character, uh, what would you say are the ingredients that were important to include? What are the important ingredients for an action hero?
Well, he is human, kind of like Batman, no superpowers.
Hmm.
He's intelligent. He has a great sense of humor. He's not really, quote, me. One of the ingredients is actually Doc Savage in the second book.
Love it. Yeah.
He works out every day. He trains every day in the tropics, and his base is actually in Laredo, Texas, his home. So he's very bronzed, very tan, works out all the time, and he's very smart. So a lot of Doc Savage kind of goes into the second book, so to speak. And he has honor. So he's kind of tomorrow's hero, a man who will keep honor, a man of action, but yet he has that sense of humor and soft compassion side. So I think it makes a pretty well balanced character.
Yeah. I have so much in common with your character. Bronzed, tan, workout every day. I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Well, it was a lot of fun. Um, the characters are age are equally entertaining. He has a lifelong Hispanic friend named Cheech, who has an incredible sense of humor. They started the Border Patrol together. And then I throw in a tall second generation Jamaican, Lamont. and he's tall and lanky with dreadlocks and a wicked taekwondo person. And then I throw in a Cherokee Indian named Yona, which means bear in Cherokee. And he's just that real strong, silent type. And then to really muck everything up, the president, head of security, Rogers, throws in a female who's kind of like an IT person, which they need in a linguist. So she's a stranger to the group. So can they trust her? Do they not trust her? Is she self-serving? Is she serving, Rogers? So she's a great character to throw in the mix. And then to dice it up, and if you do know Doc Savage, people would know Ham and Monk, how they fought, bickered, quarreled. So Cheech and Ava are at it through the whole book. And Cheech is constantly trying to irritate her, and it is a lot of great uh, chemistry to put those characters together. So I really enjoy the characters practically as much as the lead hero in this book.
Nice, nice, yeah, and uh, I imagine there's a good bit of research that goes into this too, thinking about the global politics, thinking about the action side of it, the cultural history of characters. Anything that you'd like to say about that?
Well, um, here's a good analogy. Writing's kind of like an iceberg, and the reader usually just sees a tip of the iceberg, and the writer does all the research, all the backstories. I mean, for the first 8 or 9 page, I call it a gambit, kind of like James Bond or MacGyver. I
Hmm.
spent 10, 12 days researching submarines just to write an 8 page chapter. A U-boat, at the end of the war, they had electro boots started, which were electrically coal-run diesel submarines. And trivia for all of us Uber nerds, they made about 118 of these Uber boats, these electro boots, and only two of them actually even left the harbor. They were made literally at the end of the war, and if they could have got out sooner, it would have really changed the battle of the seas because they radar by then, so submarines were more easy targeted and destroyed. So just to create the first chapter alone was a massive amount of work. And then I have a chance to explain some of the training. So the Border Patrol agents are highly trained, even probably more than the FBI. They have a special training center in New Mexico. They have to pass physical tests. They have to pass literally mock courtroom tests. They have to pass high-speed racing drills. I mean, these guys are really trained, and they have to become fluent in Spanish. Every border agent has to be fluent in Spanish. So I kind of tease that into the assembly of the group, so to speak. A little bit of training, a little bit of this, um, where they're based at. And I have to really admire these guys. And they're a huge force. I mean, there could be 80,000 Border Patrol agents, and that's one of the largest forces we have short of the Army. So they're highly trained. So I sneak that in, and then, background stuff. Um, and there are Mayans, so to speak. So if you, this is a tease. So if you combine Germans and Mayans for 90 years, what would they do? So I've actually always fascinated by Mayans, and I think even in high school I did, report on Mayans. I've actually visited Tikal and Cozumel and many Mayan ruins. Yeah, Tikal is like the 20 story pyramidals or temples. So I have a lot of Mayan information in there, including some of the Mayan language. And I speak Spanish, so I put in some nice Spanish tips. But I kind of make it like you could learn. Like they might say the word in Spanish, and I'll kind of say it in English. So hopefully the reader could pick up a little slang of Spanish too. So that's a lot of research just for one book, Nazis to Mayans to languages. There's a lot of research in that book, and the blast is the end. It kind of almost ends up like a James Bond novel at the end. It's very, very exciting, and so I enjoyed writing it thoroughly.
It certainly sounds like it. And do you envision more stories with Scott Lund to come?
Well, yes, I do. Um, the first book has a very evil villain, Colonel Tong, and I do speak some Mandarin. So Tong is Chinese for pain. And there's an old saying, the hero's only as good as his villain. So the worse the villain you make, the better the hero has to be. So the first book's kind of against racism. A lot of the different cultures have to stand together. The blacks, Hispanics, the whites have to stand together. The second book has political overtones. You guessed that right away. And then the third book is heavily against cartels and opiates. And Scott Lund battles evil cartels in Mexico. That was mostly written, and maybe a bad guy shows up in that one. And then the
Mhm.
fourth one is Let's Go Home because he's got Swedish roots. He goes to Sweden, and it ends up being a huge cyber Russian Swedish story that breaks out while he's doing a homecoming vacation. And then the fifth book, believe it or not, ends up in South Africa. Used to be called East London, and that has some 1945 roots in it too. And it's a lot of mafias which control South Town in South Africa. And supervillain might show up in that book too. So that's a five-story arc right now, about 2,000 pages, and I'm literally finishing the
Wow.
third book as we speak.
Nice, nice. So you have plans, you have charted it out. It's globe-trotting adventure. Anything else that you'd like to say that is next for you as
I
far as
love
your work?
I love globetrotting adventure.
Yeah.
Can I borrow that? That's brilliant. There is an ebook out on Scott Lund, A Town Called Wolf, and it's just a fun one. But basically, he finishes his training and goes to meet his brother and nephew for vacation in a town called Wolf, and it becomes a nightmare. That's a small $3 ebook available right now. It's a really fun read. Um, Currently, also write Nick Still, 1930s private investigator, book set in Peoria, Illinois. If you don't know Peoria, Illinois, home of Caterpillar, it was whiskey capital of the world before Prohibition, vaudeville, burlesque capital, and famous for the infamous Shelton Gang. And that third book's being edited right now too, where Nick Steele goes to Hollywood in 1938. Peoria versus Hollywood is the name of that book. And that's over half edited. My editor and I have been working on that together. Bull Venture Press is my publisher. They do fantastic art. People love the covers of them. And the editor Audrey and I work hand in foot together. We go through the book literally several times to get a high quality level. And if we on another podcast, I have another series in the works too, but maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we won't. Your turn.
I was going to ask, what is next for you? Where can people find out more information?
Oh, Bold Venture Press is a wonderful company to order from. They do anything from old pulp magazines, facsimiles to modern stuff. They're also the authorized to do the new Zorro Ventures. I have a story in swordplay and romance called Outfoxed by a Woman. Came out last year. And like anybody, we're on Amazon and you can look up through Barnes& and Noble, all the normal places. Dr. Richard A. Olson, author, is my Facebook page. I have a personal page too. So I try to be around different media. We do X, we do Instagram, and one of the funnest things is actually book signings. And I haven't done a book signing for a while this year, but I get to start out one in June. So I try to do about a book signing a month and just get out and meet and greet people. That's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, always glad to chat with you. Always glad to talk about the work that you're engaged in, and certainly glad to have you back anytime.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and two minds working alike creates bigger and better things, right?
That's right. That's right. It takes a team. It takes a team.
And all the
Uh,
cliches. There's no I in team. There's
that's
sure.
right.
I'd love to be invited back, and I have a personal trauma story this year, which might warrant its own podcast. So if you want to do a tease, um, I was practically killed in January in a car accident. Somebody had a heart attack and hit me head on highway speed, and um, I don't remember 3 days of my life. And I was there a long time,
Mm.
so it was a long recovery process. So recovery is doing good, and I am writing again. So that could be another book to write about my near-death, near-life experience and shine some light on people that maybe they can learn a lesson before that does happen to them. So that would be a great podcast and get everybody's attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would be glad to talk with you about that when you're further on in the writing and healing process. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here telling stories and certainly fulfilling your calling in that way as well.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here and just to be alive. And, God gives us more time. And if He does, what are you going to do with that more time? And how are you going to be creative
Mhm.
and be useful? So that's a lesson for us all to continue with.
Absolutely.